at the very top of their fame, tied together by secrets, loyalty, and a friendship nobody talked about. But then, nothing. No birthday posts, no girls' nights, no blurry photos of them eating at fancy New York restaurants. And now, a 400 million court fight has blown up, and somehow Taylor Swift got stuck in the middle. Fans are wondering, what happened between Blake Lively and Taylor Swift? How did one of the most private friendships in Hollywood get mixed up in accusations, lawsuits, and backstabbing? What you're about to hear is everything we know so far: how their friendship started, the weird change, and the legal mess that might have ended it all. Because while most news stories talk about Blake and her movie partner, Taylor's name is everywhere in this story. Back in 2015, nobody thought Blake Lively and Taylor Swift would become close friends. One was America's mean Gossip Girl character, the other was still moving away from country music while becoming a huge pop star. Their first time together in public? Pretty quiet. Blake posted a playful message about Taylor's Bad Blood music video through a makeup ad, tagging it as a joke. Fans weren't sure if she was being mean or nice, until Taylor herself answered back. Not with meanness, but with an invitation. That one moment started something bigger. Soon, Blake was hanging out at Taylor's famous friend group meetings. They went on vacation together in Australia. They celebrated birthdays together. Taylor even put Blake's kids in her songs. Yes, those secret voices you hear in Gorgeous and Betty. That's Blake and Ryan Reynolds' daughters. Behind the scenes, people who knew them said their friendship was real, loyal, and quietly strong, especially for celebrities. Unlike Taylor's big fights or famous friendships that ended badly, Blake was different. She wasn't just a friend, she was one of the few people Taylor trusted completely. But as we all know, trust breaks easily. And in Hollywood, it doesn't take much to destroy everything. And by late 2024, something had clearly changed. By the end of 2024, fans started seeing something weird. Blake and Taylor, who used to be together all the time, weren't showing up together anymore. No dinners, no Instagram tags, not even a quick look at each other on red carpets. And then people started talking. At first, it seemed like they were apart because they were busy. Taylor was in the middle of her record-breaking Eras tour and getting ready for the Tortured Poets department. Blake had just finished filming It Ends With Us, a really anticipated movie based on the Colleen Hoover book. But behind closed doors, something darker was happening. People say Taylor had started quietly staying away from Blake. Not in public, but in private. There were rumors she had been told about something about the set of Blake's new movie. And the man she was working with? That man? Justin Baldoni, her co-star, and the director of It Ends With Us. And soon, their working relationship would blow up into a legal mess. One that Taylor couldn't stay out of, because somehow she was already part of it. In December 2024, Blake Lively filed an official complaint that shocked the whole industry. She said her It Ends With Us co-star and director, Justin Baldoni, had sexually bothered her during filming, but it didn't stop there. According to the complaint, Baldoni had started a planned attack campaign behind the scenes, one meant to destroy Lively's believability, reputation, and power. The story made front-page headlines when the New York Times wrote an article titled, "We Can Bury Anyone Inside a Hollywood Smear Machine." Blake wasn't holding back. She said that Baldoni used tricks, scary tactics, and secret media connections to shut her up. And she didn't just say it happened, she filed an official lawsuit. The charges? Sexual harassment, breaking contract rules, causing emotional pain on purpose, invading privacy. For someone like Lively, loved, powerful, and carefully private, this wasn't just a fight, it was war. But Baldoni's response shocked everyone. Just 2 weeks later, he fought back with a $400 million lawsuit of his own. His claims? That Blake's entire case was a lie, an attempt to steal money. And in a stunning twist, he named not just Lively, but Ryan Reynolds and Taylor Swift as part of the supposed plan. That's when things went from scandalous to totally explosive. Up until now, Taylor Swift had stayed away. But that changed when Baldoni's counter-lawsuit mentioned her name, and not just quickly. According to court papers, Swift was supposedly there at a tense script meeting at Blake Lively's New York City penthouse. Baldoni said the meeting was supposed to be about creative work, but turned into something much more scary. He says Blake made it clear that Swift wasn't just there as a friend, she was there as backup. In his words, Lively called Taylor and Ryan Reynolds her dragons, the ones who protect her in battle. Baldoni said he felt trapped, like Blake was using her connection to two of the biggest cultural stars alive as power over him. He even pointed to a follow-up text where he wrote, "I really love what you did. It really does help a lot. Makes it so much more fun and interesting. And I would have felt that way without Ryan and Taylor." It was a subtle line, but in court, subtle things don't go unnoticed. Swift's name, now tied to the center of a multi-million-dollar legal fight, instantly sent the internet into a frenzy. And for someone who'd carefully avoided legal drama her entire career, this was new territory. But here's where it gets even more complicated. As the headlines exploded, so did the pressure behind the scenes. Taylor Swift, known for protecting her reputation like a castle, suddenly found herself tangled in a scandal she never asked for. And while her name wasn't on any legal papers, just the hint alone was enough to create quiet tension between her and Blake. Behind closed doors, sources say Taylor felt surprised and hurt. She hadn't expected to be pulled into court documents, especially not ones tied to such serious accusations. Blake, on the other hand, supposedly believed Taylor's presence at that meeting had been casual, informal, even supportive. But Taylor saw it differently. And that difference cracked the foundation of their friendship. Insiders revealed that Taylor started pulling back, not in a dramatic, headline-grabbing way, but slowly, on purpose. Less time together, fewer public appearances, and when the photographers caught her out in New York, Blake was nowhere to be seen. People close to them say they're working to rebuild trust, but things aren't the same. The bond they once showed, off on red carpets and in Instagram posts, had clearly shifted. And just when it seemed like things might quietly settle down, just when the public thought it couldn't get any messier, it did. Justin Baldoni, who had stayed pretty quiet after Blake's lawsuit, came back fighting hard. In a move that stunned even experienced Hollywood insiders, he filed a $400 million counter lawsuit for lies and stealing money. But this wasn't just about him and Blake anymore. The lawsuit directly named Ryan Reynolds and his PR team, and made not-so-hidden references to Taylor Swift. It was no longer a he-said-she-said legal fight. It was a full-on war with A-list names tangled in the crossfire. Baldoni said that a key meeting, one where he and Blake supposedly went over script changes, happened at her New York penthouse, and Taylor was in the room. He claimed that Blake tried to scare him, using her close ties with Reynolds and Swift as power, calling them her dragons. He painted a picture of Swift as a silent enforcer, someone whose just being at that meeting was meant to send a message. She's not alone. And while Swift herself never responded publicly, the damage was done. Her name was now written into court documents tied to sexual harassment, lies, and Hollywood power games. Even worse, Baldoni's texts seemed to suggest that Blake was using Taylor's influence behind the scenes. In one message, he wrote, "I really love what you did. It really does help a lot. Makes it so much more fun and interesting. And I would have felt that way without Ryan and Taylor." That one line set the internet on fire. Was he being real or sarcastically hinting at outside pressure? It didn't matter. The public ran with it. And Taylor, who'd just released her new album and was riding high on good reviews, suddenly found herself being talked about not for her music, but for a lawsuit she had nothing to do with. At least, officially. But there was one final twist no one saw coming. After the lawsuits were filed and the headlines exploded, something strange happened. Everyone went quiet. There were no more photographer walks of Blake and Taylor arm in arm. No Instagram likes, no subtle nods in music videos. The once inseparable pair seemed to disappear from each other's lives, at least publicly. Insiders started whispering about a split. According to reports, Taylor began pulling back, unsure of how deep the situation really went. She didn't unfollow Blake, but she didn't rush to defend her either. In Taylor's world, where loyalty is everything, that silence spoke loudly. A source close to the situation told people, "Taylor is working to trust Blake again, but it's going to take some time." That one sentence said it all. The friendship wasn't over, but it wasn't what it used to be. And for longtime fans, it was a painful shift. These two had been through it all, from cozy holiday getaways to public shout-outs and award speeches. They weren't just friends, they were chosen family. But trust, once shaken at that level, takes more than time to rebuild, especially when You've been dragged into a legal storm involving hundreds of millions of dollars, reputations, and whispered threats of Hollywood blacklisting. Still, something changed this past April. Quietly and without fanfare, Taylor and Blake were seen reconnecting. No big announcement, just a simple moment. Two women trying to put the pieces back together. But was it genuine or damage control? That's where things get complicated. In April, Taylor and Blake were seen together again, smiling, chatting, even photographed at a mutual friend's private dinner in NYC. To casual fans, it looked like they made up, proof that the bond hadn't broken. But behind the scenes, insiders weren't so sure. One source told People they aren't as close and haven't been spending as much time together as they did in the past. Another said the meetup was more about how things looked than real feelings, a calculated peace offering, not a rekindled connection. And here's where things get messy again. Taylor wasn't just dragged into the legal case by association. According to Justin Baldoni's counter lawsuit, she was actually there at one of the most important moments in the dispute. Baldoni claimed that during a rooftop script meeting at Blake's penthouse, Lively used Taylor's name as one of her creative dragons, a way to scare and apply pressure. He even said he texted Blake afterward, mentioning Taylor directly. It really does help a lot. And I would have felt that way without Ryan and Taylor. That's not nothing. Being name-dropped in legal documents, especially in a case involving accusations as explosive as these, puts everything at risk. Brand image, career ties, fan trust. So, was that quiet dinner in April a real attempt to rebuild something personal? Or was it damage control? A silent agreement to cool things down publicly while letting the real feelings fade in private? Because here's the truth. Trust once broken, especially in Hollywood, rarely comes back the same. And while fans might want the fairy tale ending, behind the scenes, the story isn't that simple. Taylor Swift and Blake Lively were once Hollywood's golden duo, inseparable, supportive, iconic. But fame doesn't protect friendships. If anything, it tests them. Between legal firestorms, whispered betrayals, and power plays that spilled from private texts into courtroom documents, this isn't just a story about two friends drifting apart. It's a warning tale about how quickly trust can be used as a weapon, and how even the closest bonds can fall apart under pressure. Sure, they may smile for the cameras now, they may share a meal, post a mysterious selfie, or show up at the same party. But the energy, it's different. Because once your name ends up in someone else's legal war, it's hard to ever go back to what you were before. And with the trial still coming and new headlines being written every week, one question remains. Is their friendship really healing? Or are they just protecting the empire? Only time and the truth behind closed doors will tell. What do you think really happened between Taylor and Blake? Was this just a fallout between friends or something way deeper behind the scenes? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this story isn't over. And if you want the real truth behind Hollywood's most unexpected fights, hit that subscribe button. We've got more coming that you won't believe.